What is going on, guys? So yesterday was Championship Saturday. You had the Pac-12 on Friday, but most of the conference championship games were played yesterday. I was lucky enough to get to go to the SEC Championship at the Benz in Atlanta. So obviously I was there rooting on the Dogs. Enjoyed that win. That was a 50-30 win over LSU. Granted, I think backup quarterbacks just confused Georgia. The backup quarterback for LSU started in the second half, and that kid was throwing dimes. He looked fantastic. Don't really know what happened with Daniels. Haven't really seen any info on that. So to give you an updated one before the committee announces their Final Four, I wanted to condense it. So instead of doing 25 teams today, I'm going to do the top 10 going into bowl season. And I wanted to take the little extra time to kind of explain where my thought processes are on getting to the Final Four that I did. So let's just start off with number 10 after championship weekend is going to be Clemson. They definitely dominated UNC in the ACC championship in Charlotte, but they've had a down year. I think it's a disappointing year for them. Definitely the loss to South Carolina hurt them in the Palmetto Bowl. They did get a little bit of revenge with UNC, so ACC Championship's nothing to shag about. I mean, you know, it's still a conference championship that is very difficult to win, so, you know, great that they get another championship, but they are definitely not a Final Four team this year. It has been down, and I think a lot of that was on Dabo sticking with DJ instead of going to Klubnik. So 10 is Clemson. 9, Penn State, who was at home, did not play in a conference championship this weekend, but their two losses come from Michigan and Ohio State. So there's clearly still a very good team this year. I got them at 9. They should head to a pretty good bowl. 8, I've got Utah, who took home the Pac-12 championship on Friday night. They took it to USC. Caleb Williams looked phenomenal in the first quarter. I think he pulled a hamstring on that big run. I think it was like a 50-yard run. And he didn't look the same the rest of that game. On the opposite side, Rising looked incredible. Took a massive hit in the third quarter, got up smiling about it, which just shows the toughness of those guys out in Utah. So at 8, I do have the Pac-12 champions in Utah. At 7, I've got Tennessee. I know a lot of people still hate that Tennessee is ranked below Alabama. They've got the same record, and Tennessee has the head-to-head. But the committee looks at injuries, looks at your starting roster and the whole body of work, and I try to stick with what the committee is looking at. I do think Hendon Hooker not playing changes that team. I do think that the embarrassing loss to South Carolina at South Carolina, if that was a 3-point loss, we wouldn't be talking about this. But it wasn't. They put 63 on there. Hendon got hurt. All these things. So yeah, today's Tennessee team would not have beaten today's Alabama team. That's just how I feel about it. So a lot of y'all get upset with it. Y'all leave comments about it all the time. You know, the head-to-head should matter. I understand that, but injuries matter as well. And Hendon Hooker was vastly needed to win, which was a last-minute field goal at Rocky Top. So I just don't think the backup quarterback in Tennessee would have been able to do that. That being said, with Tennessee at 7, I have Alabama at 6. They do have 2 losses on the season. They did lose at Rocky Top. They lost to an LSU team that got manhandled by Georgia in Atlanta yesterday. That LSU team also lost to A&M by like 17. That A&M team was a couple of plays, one play away from beating Alabama there. So no, I'm sorry. By the way the committee looks at things and the way other teams have played, I know with TCU losing and USC losing and all these things, we want to say, oh, well, Bama has a shot. I'm sorry, to me, they didn't. 2 losses matter, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So Bama at 6. I'm still thinking they go to the Sugar Bowl. At 5, I did drop USC from 4 for taking the loss in the Pac-12 championship. Again, I think the injury to Caleb Williams changes that. So if he is out, they're not a top 4 team. And it's just another example of a Lincoln Riley coached team kind of crumbling in the crunch moments. I think it was a very good. They went from a 4-win season last season to 11-1 in the regular season. This season, the transfer portal helped him out a lot. Caleb Williams going out there helped him out a lot. But it just seems like Lincoln Riley's teams don't know how to tackle. And that kind of showed up at Oklahoma, and that was very apparent in the Pac-12 championship. Friday night, there was 3, 4, 5 plays that went explosive for Utah. USC just didn't tackle. It was horrible tackling. Their defense just sucked. So I think that, added with the Caleb Williams injury, drops them out of the Final Four. At 4, I've got TCU for taking the loss in the Big 12 championship. That was an overtime loss by a field goal. They went for it on 4th down, did not convert, and then K-State kicked the field goal to win. So I like the way Sonny Dykes did that. He went for it the way he's done all season to win their close games, and it's worked out. The whole regular season, it worked out for him. This time, it just didn't. But you still have to award a 12-0 regular season. Georgia did that. Georgia went 12-0 last year, lost their championship game, went in, and then won the whole thing. So I still have them, but I do drop them the way I did with USC. Because they lost their conference championship game, I dropped them 1, but that still puts TCU at 4 for having the undefeated regular season. That being said, 3 would be Ohio State to me. Their 1 loss, I know it was a blowout loss to their rival at home. I get that, but their rival's also number 2, who drummed Purdue yesterday. Purdue put up a good half. They went in with a 1-point deficit at the half, and then Michigan's physicality took over in the Big Ten championship last night in Indy. So that's where I've got Ohio State is at 3. So TCU, Ohio State, and 2. Obviously, I've got Michigan. There was a point for about a half of that game where Purdue was very much in the game, doing quick passes, screens, that kind of nature, not to let the pass rush get home, but the physicality of Michigan ended up overwhelming the Purdue Boilermakers last night to bring Michigan back-to-back Big Ten championships. But they went into the half with a 1-point lead. So I do think Michigan's number 2, and we'll head to Glendale for the Fiesta Bowl. And I've got Georgia at 1. That game was never in question after the first field goal run back for 96 yards. Georgia scored right there, then did a 3-and-out, got a defensive stop, and scored again, and it was off to the races. Georgia was up 35-10 at the half. Again, the backup quarterback came into the game for LSU, and there's nothing that confuses a Georgia team like a backup quarterback mid-game. I did not catch his name, but he looked really good, was throwing dimes, and a number of fans around me was asking why he was not starting the whole season, because he looked great. But Georgia wins 50-30, bringing home the first SEC championship since 2017, where they went on and won that Rose Bowl and then lost to the Crimson Tide in the 2018 championship game. 2nd and 26 still just horrifies any Georgia fan that I talk to. So that's the top 4. I know it is difficult. Alabama won it in. Alabama's got they've only lost 2 games by a total of 4 points. You still lost 2 games. That's where it's at. The top 4 teams are Georgia, who is 13-0, Michigan, who is 13-0, Ohio State, whose only loss in the regular season was to number 2, and TCU, who is 12-1, and that 1 loss was an overtime field goal in their conference championship that Alabama didn't even make. So USC is on the outside looking in at 5 because they lost the Pac-12. Caleb Williams gets hurt. And then Bama is at 6. The 2 losses really hurt, especially now that LSU is a 9-4 team. That loss looks even worse. I think it would be better if they had lost to Georgia but had won against A&M, but they didn't. So LSU lost to A&M, LSU lost to Georgia, and Bama couldn't put them away. I know it was in Death Valley, but that counts. Alabama has 2 losses, and you're not one of the top 4 this year. That's how I see it. I think the committee will see it close to the same way. They may flip USC and Bama, but the top 4 teams getting in is going to be Georgia, Michigan, and I don't know if they'll put TCU at 3 and leave Ohio State at 4, or do like I did. I've got Ohio State at 3 just because I did bump USC down for losing a conference championship, so I thought it was fair to bump TCU down 1 for losing a conference championship, but still rewarding them with an opportunity because of the undefeated regular season. So that's where I'm at, guys. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, TCU is mine, and in a couple of hours we'll see what the committee says about this. So there it is, and we'll see next time, and you guys enjoy Christmas. The next college video will be after the New Year's 6 bowls. We will know who will be in the national championship, and I will do a special video previewing that game, whether that be Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, or TCU squaring off for the national championship over in LA. So alright, Fam Jam, until next time, I'm out.